You've been lied to for years. These 15 facts everyone knows are totally false. Everyone grows up hearing that Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth. It's the king of the peaks, the rooftop of the planet, towering over everything else. At 29,032 feet above sea level, it's certainly impressive. But here's the twist: Everest only seems like the tallest. When you measure mountains from their base to their tip, a quiet giant hiding in plain sight steals the crown. Let's head to Hawaii. There, rising out of the Pacific Ocean, is Mauna Kea. From sea level, it stands at a respectable 13,803 feet. Not enough to dethrone Everest unless you look underwater. You see, Mauna Kea starts deep beneath the ocean floor. When measured from its actual base, it reaches over 33,500 feet. That makes it more than a mile taller than Everest when measured from top to bottom. It's like comparing someone standing on a box to someone standing flat on the ground. Everest has the height advantage only because it starts higher up. But in terms of pure size, Mauna Kea is the real giant. This volcanic mountain has another surprise: it's dormant, covered in snow, and hosts some of the world's most powerful telescopes. Its summit is above 40% of Earth's atmosphere. That's why stargazers love it. On a clear night, the stars don't twinkle as much up there. That's not just poetic, it's physics. Less atmosphere means less distortion. So why does Everest get all the fame? It's dramatic, dangerous, and it looks the part. Jagged, icy, and deadly. It pushes humans to their physical limits. Meanwhile, Mauna Kea rises gently from the sea, hiding most of its bulk beneath the waves. It doesn't scream challenge. It whispers secrets to those who dig deeper. In a way, Everest is the celebrity mountain: flashy, photogenic, and headline-grabbing. Mauna Kea? That's the one with quiet power. And now, you know the truth that textbooks often skip. Close your eyes and think Viking. You probably see a wild warrior charging into battle with a horned helmet, beard flying, and axe raised. It's an image burned into pop culture, seen in cartoons, TV shows, metal band covers, and Halloween costumes. But it's completely wrong. There's zero archaeological evidence that Vikings wore horned helmets in combat. None have ever been found in Viking graves or ship burials, not one. Real Viking helmets were simple, rounded, made of iron or hardened leather, and designed for function, not flair. Horns on a helmet would be impractical in battle. They'd catch weapons, get tangled, and throw off balance. So where did this horned fantasy come from? In the 1800s, costume designers for a Wagner opera decided to spice things up. Horns looked dramatic, powerful, even mystical. The look stuck, and over time fiction blurred into assumed fact. The media ran with it, and now horned helmets are the symbol of an entire civilization, even though they never wore them. What's real is even more impressive. Vikings were skilled shipbuilders, navigators, and traders. They reached North America centuries before Columbus. They weren't just raiders, they were builders of settlements and stories. So next time you see a horned helmet, just know it's theater, not history. For centuries, Napoleon Bonaparte has been mocked as a short man with a massive ego, the so-called Napoleon complex. But the truth? He was taller than most people in his time. Napoleon stood around 5 feet 6 or 7 inches average for a Frenchman in the early 1800s. So where did the short joke come from? The confusion started with different units of measurement. French inches were longer than British ones. When his height was recorded in French feet and inches, British translators misread it, making him seem smaller. Then came the propaganda. Britain and France were bitter enemies. British satirists loved to paint Napoleon as a little tyrant with a big temper. Cartoons showed him as a baby throwing tantrums or a dwarf next to towering British generals. It was easy to ridicule him, and the image stuck. In reality, Napoleon commanded massive armies, reshaped Europe, and outmaneuvered entire coalitions of enemies. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't small. Ironically, his legacy looms large both in history and in the myths people still believe. So next time someone jokes about Napoleon syndrome, just remember the guy they're talking about could look most modern men in the eye. And he probably walks straighter too. It sounds mysterious, maybe even hopeful. Humans only use 10% of their brains. It's been repeated in movies, self-help books, and motivational speeches for decades. But it's pure fiction, no science backs it up. Your brain is busy almost all the time. Even when you're resting, sleeping, or daydreaming, scans show activity sparking across regions. Neuroscience has mapped it thoroughly, and the truth is, You use virtually every part of your brain. Not all at once, but every region has a job memory, movement, speech, emotions, decisions. The brain is like a city different districts light up depending on the task. So where did the 10% myth come from? It's unclear. Some think it was a misquote of early psychologists. Others blame motivational speakers who twisted science into a slogan. Then came films like Lucy and Limitless, which turned it into a superpower fantasy. What if we could unlock the rest? Here's the thing, your brain already is remarkable. It processes millions of signals every second, makes split-second decisions, stores decades of memories, and controls every breath without asking you. The idea that 90% of it is just sitting idle? That's like saying only one engine powers a jumbo jet. So don't wait to access more of your brain. You're already using what evolution gave you, and it's more powerful than any Hollywood plotline. It's one of the world's most famous structures, twisting across China for thousands of miles, built stone by stone over centuries. You've probably heard people say the Great Wall is the only man-made object visible from space. The problem is, that's just not true. Astronauts themselves have confirmed it. From low Earth orbit, where the International Space Station circles the planet, the Great Wall is incredibly hard to spot. Why? It's narrow, only about 30 feet wide in most places, and it blends right in with the surrounding terrain. It's made of local rock, soil, and bricks that match the color of the land. Unless the lighting is just right and you know exactly where to look, it disappears into the landscape. NASA has addressed this directly. They've published photos and statements from astronauts confirming that highways, airports, and even cities are easier to see than the wall. In fact, some bridges and dams are far more visible. Ironically, certain crop fields stand out more from orbit than this massive wonder of the ancient world. So where did the myth come from? It started long before humans reached space. A few writers in the 1800s imagined the wall would be visible due to its length. The claim stuck, and by the time space travel became reality, the legend had already spread too far to stop. The truth? The wall is impressive, one of history's greatest engineering feats. But from space, it's just one more seam in Earth's vast tapestry. Not invisible, but far from obvious. The classic image of a chameleon sneaking across a branch, blending perfectly with the leaves around it, is stuck in everyone's head. It's the ultimate nature ninja. But here's the twist: chameleons don't change color to blend into their environment. Not really, that's not their main trick. Color change in chameleons is more about communication than camouflage. It's how they signal to rivals, attract mates, or show stress. Think of it like a social media status update, except instead of text, it's a full-body color shift. The mechanism behind it is even cooler. Under their skin, chameleons have layers of special cells that contain nanocrystals. By changing the spacing of these crystals, they can reflect different wavelengths of light, which changes their skin color. It's not paint, it's physics. Some chameleons go from bright green to fiery red in seconds. A male trying to intimidate a rival might flash bold colors. One feeling threatened could turn darker or fade to a pale tone. It's like watching an emotion meter in real time. Do they ever use it for camouflage? Sometimes, yes, especially when they need to cool off or stay still in open spaces. But that's not the main story. If you're picturing them turning plaid on a picnic blanket or mimicking a checkerboard, forget it. So next time you see a chameleon shift its skin, know that it's not hiding, it's talking. And you just walked into the conversation. People love to say it. Travel far enough south, say, to Australia, and you'll watch toilets spin the opposite way when they flush. Northern hemisphere, counterclockwise. Southern hemisphere, clockwise. Sounds like science in motion. Except, that's not how it works. The Coriolis effect is real. It's caused by Earth's rotation and does influence large-scale systems like hurricanes. In the northern hemisphere, cyclones spin counterclockwise. In the southern, they rotate clockwise. But that's on the macro-level storms hundreds of miles wide. Not a bathroom swirl. Toilets and sinks? They're too small. The way water spins when it drains is controlled by how the water enters the bowl, the shape of the plumbing, and the angle of the jets. Manufacturers design flush patterns. That means a toilet in New York and one in Sydney could spin the same way or opposite depending on how they are built. The idea that the Coriolis effect controls your toilet probably started as a joke or an oversimplified science fact. It sounds cool, and it's been repeated in shows, cartoons, and even textbooks. But scientists have tested it. They had to use incredibly controlled lab conditions, no jets, perfectly still water to even detect a small influence. So yes, Earth's rotation bends air currents and helps shape weather systems. But it's not deciding the direction your bathroom flushes. That's your plumbing doing the work, not the planet. Hollywood has totally trained us to think of Roman gladiators as these shredded warriors, you know. Six-packs, bulging arms, perfectly sculpted bodies, almost like action figures carved in stone. But honestly, ancient sources and science tell a pretty different story. The real gladiators? Well, a lot of them actually had bellies, big ones. When archaeologists uncovered a gladiator graveyard in Ephesus, Turkey, they ran some bone analysis on the remains. And what they found surprised everyone: gladiators had thick layers of fat. It wasn't because they were lazy or out of shape, it was all about strategy. The extra fat acted as armor. It protected their vital organs from slashes and strikes. So, like, a cut to the ribs would hurt, but not kill if there was a cushion. These fighters were professional athletes, for real. Their diets were super high in carbs, mostly beans and barley, which actually earned them the nickname Barley Men. They even drank a special drink made from vinegar and ash to help with muscle recovery, kind of like the ancient world's version of a sports drink. And their training? Brutal and precise. Like, think UFC fighters, but in togas. They trained for specific match styles. They didn't just run into the arena randomly swinging swords. They were paired based on fighting type, size, and skill. The goal wasn't to die, it was to entertain. Many of them lived for years with fan bases and sponsorships and everything. So no, they didn't look like action heroes. They looked more like tanks, powerful, resilient, and built for survival. The lean, chiseled gladiator? That's just a movie poster. The real deal was built for the arena, not for the beach. It's like one of the most common beliefs in grooming: shave your hair and it'll come back thicker, darker, and faster. That idea has fueled hesitation around razors for decades. But the truth is just not how hair works. When you shave, you're slicing the hair off at skin level. That creates a blunt tip, not a tapered one. So when it grows back, it feels stubbly and looks darker, but it's not actually thicker or growing faster. It's really just an illusion caused by the way light hits that new, flat end. Multiple scientific studies, including one from as far back as the 1920s, have confirmed that shaving has no effect on hair's thickness, growth rate, or color. Your follicles, the parts under the skin that produce hair, don't change from shaving. They aren't even aware of it. Why does this myth survive? Maybe it's because the fresh regrowth feels different. Maybe it's just passed down from generation to generation like some kind of family superstition. Or maybe it's the shock of how noticeable the hair becomes once it's grown past the surface again. The real drivers of hair characteristics are hormones and genetics. That's why teenagers suddenly grow mustaches, or why some people just can't grow a full beard no matter how often they shave. So no, shaving won't turn peach fuzz into porcupine bristles. It's just cutting what's already there, nothing more. The razor may be sharp, but the myth it created isn't. For years, goldfish have been the punchline of memory jokes. Don't be a goldfish basically means don't forget instantly. The myth claims they have just a 3-second memory span, barely enough to remember their last swim. But here's what scientists discovered. Goldfish are smarter than most people think. Research shows they can remember things for months. They can be trained to associate sounds with feeding, recognize patterns, and even navigate simple mazes. One study taught goldfish to press a lever at specific times of day to get food, and they got it right. They also remember people. Some owners report that their goldfish swim up to them while ignoring strangers, and if their tank environment changes, like, say, a new plant or a rearranged castle, they notice right away and explore it with curiosity. Goldfish use spatial memory to navigate their tanks and environments. They don't just drift aimlessly, they actually form routines and territories. Their memory helps them know where food is likely to appear and how to avoid obstacles. So, where did the 3 seconds myth come from? Probably from the assumption that a tiny fish must have a tiny mind. Or maybe it was just an easy way to excuse putting them in boring, bare bowls. But science doesn't back it up. In truth, goldfish can learn, remember, and adapt. That makes them way more than just a floating decoration. They're little swimmers with big potential. This one refuses to die. Ask around and someone will swear it's true. Albert Einstein, the man who rewrote physics, failed math as a kid. It's a favorite quote in classrooms and motivational posters, proof that even the smartest minds struggled early on. The problem? It never happened. Einstein himself shut the rumor down in his lifetime. He was once asked about it and replied, "I never failed in mathematics. Before I was 15, I had mastered differential and integral calculus. That's not just passing, that's years ahead of schedule." So where did this myth come from? Most likely from a misunderstanding. In the Swiss grading system Einstein used, A1 was the worst mark and a 6 was the best, the opposite of what's common in the US. When someone looked at his old report card and saw a bunch of ones, they thought he had flunked. In reality, he was at the top of his class. Einstein wasn't a perfect student in every subject. He had issues with authority, and his teachers didn't always appreciate his questions, but in math and science, he excelled. Science? He devoured textbooks for fun and solved advanced problems long before most of his peers. He wasn't struggling, he was bored. The myth probably stuck around because it sounds inspiring. If Einstein failed math, there's hope for the rest of us, right? But the truth is even more powerful. He didn't come from nowhere. His brilliance was clear from an early age, not in defiance of math, but through it. You've heard it 100 times, humans have 5 senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. It's neat, simple, and easy to remember, but it's also wrong. The idea goes all the way back to Aristotle, and while it made sense in ancient Greece, modern science says our bodies are far more complex. Today, neurologists agree that humans have at least 20 senses, and depending on how you define them, possibly over 30. These are known as non-traditional senses, and you use them constantly even if you've never heard their names. Start with proprioception, the sense of where your body is in space. Close your eyes and touch your nose. You didn't need to see your hand to do it. That's proprioception at work. Then there's equilibrioception, or your sense of balance. It's controlled by tiny canals filled with fluid in your inner ear. Tip your head too far or spin around, and your equilibrium lets you know exactly how off-center you are or reminds you, fast. You've also got thermoception, your ability to detect heat and cold. Nociception tells you when something hurts. Chronoception may help track time, though it's not fully understood. There's even a sense that monitors blood oxygen levels and triggers your breathing reflex. Your body is basically running a full command center 24/7, processing signals from muscles, organs, skin, and nerves to keep you alive and functioning. The idea of just 5 senses sells it all way short. So next time you hear that number, remember you're not limited to 5. You're running a full human operating system with a sensory toolkit far more advanced than anyone guessed in Aristotle's time. It's the kind of phrase people toss around to reassure themselves. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. It sounds comforting, but, nature doesn't follow slogans. In reality, lightning often strikes the same place over and over, especially if it's tall, metal, or isolated. And nowhere proves this better than the Empire State Building. This iconic New York skyscraper gets struck by lightning about 20 to 25 times a year. That's not an exaggeration. It's documented by sensors, photos, and direct observations. During strong storms, it can get hit multiple times in a single night. The reason? Well, it's a lightning rod in every sense. With its height and structure, it becomes a natural target for discharging massive amounts of energy. And it's not just buildings. Trees, towers, mountain peaks, any elevated point are repeat targets. Lightning follows the path of least resistance to the ground. If that path includes a tall structure, it'll choose it again and again. In fact, some of the world's tallest towers have specially designed lightning protection systems because engineers expect multiple strikes every year. The phrase probably stuck because it sounded poetic or dramatic. It became a metaphor for unlikely misfortune, the idea that bad luck can't happen twice in the same way. But when it comes to science, it doesn't hold up. So yes, lightning can and does strike twice. Sometimes in the same spot, sometimes in the same second. Ask any storm chaser, park ranger, or building engineer, and they'll tell you electricity has no memory. But it definitely has favorite places. It's one of those warnings nearly everyone hears growing up. Stop cracking your knuckles, you'll get arthritis. The sound is sharp, the habit seems suspicious, and the myth has been passed down for generations. But science has put this one to rest. There's no link between knuckle cracking and arthritis. So what's really happening when your joints pop? The cracking sound doesn't come from bones grinding or ligaments snapping. It's actually caused by gas. Your joints contain a thick fluid called synovial fluid, which lubricates them. When you stretch or pull on a joint, it creates negative pressure, kind of like a vacuum that causes tiny gas bubbles to form and collapse. That pop you hear is the sound of that bubble bursting. Several studies have looked at this closely. One of the most famous involved a doctor who cracked the knuckles on just one hand for over 60 years daily and left the other untouched. The result? No difference in arthritis between the two hands. Larger studies backed it up. Habitual knuckle cracking doesn't increase your risk of joint disease? Now, can cracking your knuckles annoy people around you? Absolutely. And in some rare cases, doing it too aggressively can cause temporary swelling or reduce grip strength. But that's a far cry from long-term joint damage or arthritis. This myth stuck because the sound seems like something bad is happening inside your hand. But your joints are just releasing pressure like snapping a seal. It might not be polite at the dinner table, but it's not dangerous to your bones. It's a detail that's made its way into books, crime shows, and eerie campfire stories after someone dies. Their hair and nails keep growing. The image is unsettling, as if the body refuses to stop completely. But here's the truth, it's not growth. It's an illusion created by the way the body changes after death. Hair and nails don't continue to grow because they require a living supply of nutrients, oxygen, glucose, and hormones, all of which stop circulating the moment the heart stops. Without that, the cells responsible for producing hair and nail tissue shut down almost immediately. So what causes the illusion? It comes down to dehydration. After death, the skin begins to dry out and retract. As it tightens and pulls back from the base of the nails and the roots of the hair, more of those already formed parts become exposed. It looks like they're longer, but nothing has grown. The hair's not pushing forward, the skin is pulling back. In forensic science, this effect can sometimes mislead those unfamiliar with postmortem changes. But professionals know better. They look for other signs to estimate time since death, not hair length. This myth likely stuck because it adds a layer of mystery and horror to something people already find uncomfortable. But in reality, it's just biology. The body isn't reaching out from beyond, it's simply drying, shifting, and revealing what was already there. No supernatural growth, no creepy surprise. Just one more case of things not being quite what they seem. Ever find yourself lying in bed staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering why sleep just won't come? Or maybe you get a random burst of energy right when it's time to wind down. If that sounds familiar, you might be onto something. People with brilliant minds often struggle with regular sleep schedules. Their brains don't switch off easily. They're wired to keep thinking, analyzing, and creating long after everyone else has gone to sleep. For many, bedtime means closing their eyes and drifting off without a second thought. But for others, it's a mental battlefield. Thoughts flood in at full speed. Ideas pop up out of nowhere. The need to solve a problem or understand something deeply takes over. It's not uncommon for highly intelligent people to find themselves researching the most random topics at ridiculous hours. Of course, this isn't just about being a night owl. Some geniuses have completely unpredictable sleep cycles. They might sleep deeply for a few hours, wake up feeling ready to conquer the world, and then crash at the most inconvenient times. Others get by on minimal rest, yet their minds stay razor sharp. Science backs this up. Studies suggest that people with high IQs are more likely to have unusual sleep patterns. Their brains process information differently, making it harder to follow a strict routine. This can be frustrating, especially in a world that expects everyone to be bright-eyed and ready to go early in the morning.
Ready?
Ever catch yourself whispering words under your breath or having full conversations when no one's around? That's not a weird habit. It's a hidden sign of a sharp mind. Talking to yourself isn't just a quirky trait. It helps organize thoughts, solve problems, and reinforce memory. Many highly intelligent people verbalize their thoughts because their brains work so fast that speaking out loud helps them keep track. It's not just about muttering random words. Some people rehearse conversations, explain things to themselves, or even argue both sides of a debate alone. This habit allows the brain to process information more effectively. Studies suggest that verbalizing thoughts can boost cognitive function, helping people focus better and recall details more accurately. Even Einstein was known to talk to himself frequently. He wasn't concerned about how it looked. He understood that it helped him refine his ideas. If you do this too, it might mean that your brain thrives on active problem solving. The next time someone catches you chatting with yourself, just smile. You're not losing it. Your brain is simply working at a level most people don't understand.
Ready.
Ever find yourself doodling while on the phone, in a meeting, or during class? That random sketching might seem like nothing, but it's actually a sign of a hyperactive and creative brain. People with high intelligence often doodle without thinking. It's not just a way to pass the time, it helps the brain organize information, retain details, and stay engaged. Research shows that doodling can improve concentration. While most people assume it's a sign of distraction, it actually helps process information on a deeper level. That's why some of the greatest minds in history, from Da Vinci to Edison, filled their notebooks with sketches and random scribbles. Even when they weren't directly working on a problem, their minds were still making connections. Some geniuses have unique doodling styles, complex patterns, geometric shapes, or even little stick figures acting out scenes. The key is that their brains don't just passively absorb information, they interact with it. If your notes are covered in tiny drawings, there's a good chance your mind is doing something far more interesting than it seems.
Ready.
Sitting still, listening to the same conversations, or watching predictable movies might feel unbearable to you. If boredom creeps in quickly, it's not a flaw. It's your brain demanding something more challenging. Highly intelligent people get bored fast because their minds crave constant stimulation. They need variety, depth, and complexity to stay engaged. This is why many geniuses jump from topic to topic. They pick up a new hobby, dive in completely, and then lose interest as soon as they have figured it out. It's not laziness, it's efficiency. They absorb information rapidly and move on when there's nothing new to learn. This trait also explains why some intelligent people struggle with repetitive jobs or small talk. Their minds hunger for something more. Instead of seeing boredom as a downside, consider it a sign that your brain is wired differently. When there's nothing challenging enough, your mind creates its own stimulation. Daydreaming, problem solving, or coming up with unusual ideas. What seems like impatience to others might actually be a hidden advantage.
Ready.
Do you mix flavors most people wouldn't? Eat at odd hours? Crave certain foods while completely ignoring others? Unusual eating habits are a surprisingly common trait among highly intelligent people. Their minds are wired for exploration, and that curiosity extends to food. They're not satisfied with routine meals, they like to experiment. Some geniuses eat in patterns, only one type of food for days, then suddenly switching to something else. Others prefer strange combinations, like dipping fries in ice cream or adding hot sauce to unexpected dishes. Even drinking habits can be unusual, whether it's an obsession with a specific kind of tea, coffee at midnight, or always needing a drink in hand while thinking. Food is fuel, but for some, it's also a form of mental stimulation. The brain craves novelty, and taste is just another way to explore the world. If you've ever been told your eating habits are weird, take it as a sign. You might just be feeding a brain that operates on a completely different level.
Ready.
Take a close look at your fingernails. Do you see small white half-moons at the base? These are called lunulae, and while most people never pay attention to them, some believe they reveal more than just nail health. A theory suggests that people with large, well-defined lunulae might have sharper cognitive abilities, faster reaction times, and stronger mental endurance. It's not just superstition. Lunulae are connected to circulation and oxygen levels in the body, which can impact brain function. Some researchers associate strong blood flow with better concentration and problem-solving skills. People with prominent lunulae may experience bursts of energy and quick thinking, while those with barely visible ones might feel more sluggish or mentally drained. Of course, this doesn't mean your intelligence is written on your hands, but it's an interesting clue about how your body operates. The brain and body are more connected than most people realize, and even the tiniest details might hint at something deeper. If your lunulae are bright and bold, you might just have a mind that works faster than you think.
Ready.
Ever find yourself cracking up at a joke while everyone else just stares? Or laughing at something so absurd that no one else understands why it's funny? A unique sense of humor is often linked to intelligence. People with quick, sharp minds process information differently, making them more likely to see the hidden layers in jokes or find humor in unexpected places. Research shows that highly intelligent people tend to enjoy dark, ironic, or abstract humor. They make connections faster, recognize patterns others miss, and appreciate jokes that require a bit of thought. It's why they might laugh at a single word, a clever twist, or even a completely random thought. This kind of humor isn't just about entertainment. It's a sign of creativity and lateral thinking. If your laughter often leaves people confused, it's not because the joke wasn't funny. It's because your brain saw something theirs didn't. And that in itself is pretty amusing.
Ready.
Look at the way you hold a pen. Is it different from what most people were taught? Do your fingers grip it in an unconventional way? Or maybe you type in a way that doesn't quite match the standard finger placement. It might seem insignificant, but unique hand movements can hint at a brain that's wired a little differently. Handwriting and typing habits are linked to motor skills, brain development, and even thought patterns. Some studies suggest that people who hold a pen differently or type in their own unique style might have a more adaptive way of thinking. Their brains prioritize efficiency over traditional methods, choosing whatever works best rather than following the usual approach. Even famous thinkers and writers had distinctive ways of writing. Some held their pens with extra fingers, others typed with just a few keys at a time. It didn't slow them down, it set them apart. If your writing habits have always been a little unconventional, it's not a mistake. It's just proof that your mind works in ways most people don't expect.
Ready?
What if the color of your eyes hinted at how your brain works? It might sound strange, but research has suggested that eye color could be linked to certain cognitive abilities. People with lighter eyes, blue, green, or gray, tend to excel in strategic thinking and long-term problem solving. Those with darker eyes, brown or black, often have stronger reflexes and perform better under pressure. One theory suggests that melanin, the pigment responsible for eye color, plays a role in brain function. More melanin may contribute to faster processing speeds, making darker-eyed individuals quick thinkers and strong decision-makers. On the other hand, lighter-eyed people are often better at deep concentration, abstract thinking, and creative problem-solving. Of course, intelligence isn't just about eye color, but it's fascinating how even small genetic details might shape the way people think. The next time you look in the mirror, consider this. The way you see the world might be more than just physical. It could be a glimpse into how your brain works, too.
Ready?
Ever forget where you put your keys but remember a random fact from years ago? Or struggle to recall names while effortlessly explaining complex ideas? If so, you're not alone. Forgetfulness, especially about everyday details, is surprisingly common among highly intelligent people. This happens because the brain prioritizes. When someone processes vast amounts of information daily, the mind naturally filters out what it considers unnecessary. It doesn't waste energy storing things that don't contribute to problem-solving, creativity, or deeper understanding. That's why some of the smartest people forget birthdays, appointments, or even what they had for breakfast, while effortlessly recalling intricate theories or obscure details. Neuroscientists suggest that forgetfulness isn't a flaw. It's actually a sign of an efficient brain. If your mind constantly moves from one thought to the next, letting go of minor details might just be its way of making room for something bigger. So the next time you misplace your phone or forget a simple fact, don't beat yourself up. Your brain is just busy doing genius-level work.
Ready?
Ever felt like you're speaking a different language even when you're surrounded by people? Like your thoughts operate on a different wavelength, making it hard to connect? Many highly intelligent people experience this. They think deeply, analyze everything, and question ideas that most people accept without hesitation. This can make social interactions feel shallow or even frustrating. It's not that they don't enjoy people, it's that they struggle to find those who see the world the way they do. Small talk feels exhausting, repetitive tasks seem unbearable, and groupthink never quite makes sense. Instead of blending in, they naturally stand out, even when they're not trying to. This can lead to a sense of isolation, but it's not a bad thing. Many of history's greatest minds, from inventors to artists, were seen as outsiders in their time. If you've ever felt out of place, it could be because you're wired to think beyond what's considered normal. And that's what sets geniuses apart.
Ready?
Have you ever been so deep in thought that you barely blink? Or caught yourself staring intensely at something while others blinked naturally? Studies suggest that highly intelligent people blink less than the average person, especially when focused. Their brains operate in a way that prioritizes processing over routine physical actions. Blinking is tied to attention. Most people blink about 15-20 times per minute, but those deeply engaged in a thought process or problem-solving mode blink significantly less. This is why many genius-level thinkers seem to have an intense gaze. Their eyes stay locked on their work, absorbing every detail without interruption. Interestingly, some of the world's most brilliant minds, including great scientists and chess masters, have been observed blinking less than those around them. It's not something people do consciously. It's just another way the brain shows that it's running at a higher speed. If you've ever been told you have a piercing stare, your brain might simply be too busy to bother with unnecessary blinks.
Ready?
Some people accept things as they are, others constantly ask, why? If you're the type who can't resist diving down research rabbit holes, questioning everything, and craving new knowledge, you might have the curiosity trait linked to high intelligence. Geniuses don't just wonder about things, they need to know. They can't hear an interesting fact and let it go. They have to investigate, analyze, and connect the dots. They find joy in discovering patterns, understanding complex topics, and exploring ideas that others overlook. This is why they often end up with an eclectic range of interests, jumping from one subject to another at lightning speed. Many of history's greatest innovators were relentless questioners. They weren't satisfied with what was known. They wanted to push the boundaries of knowledge. If you've ever found yourself deep in a topic at 2 a.m. just because you had to understand it, your curiosity might be the driving force behind a mind that never stops learning.
Ready.
One moment, you're the life of the party. The next, you vanish for days, completely absorbed in your own world. If this sounds familiar, you're not indecisive. You're just wired for both deep social engagement and intense solitude. Many highly intelligent people have this dual nature. When around the right people, their energy is contagious. They thrive in stimulating conversations, enjoy humor, and can make connections effortlessly. But once the social aspect is over, they need time alone to recharge. Their brains work in bursts, engaging fully when needed, then retreating into deep focus and introspection. This balance between extroversion and introversion is what allows creative and intellectual breakthroughs to happen. Some of the world's most successful individuals are known for disappearing for long stretches, working on ideas in complete isolation, then emerging to share their brilliance. If you've ever felt like both an extrovert and an introvert at the same time, you're not alone. It's just the way some of the most fascinating minds operate.
Ready.
Ever been distracted by a sound that no one else even notices? Or bothered by a scent so faint that others barely react? Many highly intelligent people experience heightened sensitivity to sensory input. Their brains process more information at once, making small details stand out in a way that others don't experience. This isn't just about personal preference, it's neurological. Studies suggest that people with high intelligence often have more active sensory processing, meaning they react more intensely to external stimuli. A ticking clock, the hum of a refrigerator, or even background chatter can feel overwhelming. The same goes for smells. Strong perfumes, certain foods, or even the natural scent of a room can become distracting. This sensitivity can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows for greater attention to detail, deeper appreciation for art and music, and a strong memory tied to sensory experiences. On the other hand, it can make everyday environments feel overstimulating. If you've ever wished the world was just a little quieter or less overwhelming, your brain might just be tuned into frequencies most people ignore.
Ready.
Ever compared your hands to someone else's and noticed yours seem a little longer? It might not just be a random trait. Some studies suggest that having proportionally long fingers is linked to strong cognitive abilities, particularly in abstract thinking and problem solving. Long-fingered individuals often excel in fields that require precision, pattern recognition, and strategic thinking, qualities associated with high intelligence. One theory connects this to prenatal testosterone levels, which influence both brain development and hand structure. People with longer fingers tend to have a stronger ability to process complex information, which could explain why they often show a natural talent for mathematics, music, or creative problem solving. Their fingers may also contribute to enhanced fine motor skills, making them naturally better at playing instruments, writing, or intricate hand-based tasks. Of course, intelligence isn't determined by physical traits alone, but it's fascinating how the body and brain develop in ways that might complement each other. If you've ever noticed that your hands stand out, slimmer, longer, or more flexible than most, you might just have a mind that's wired to handle complexity better than the average person.
Ready.
Choosing what to eat for lunch should be simple. Picking between two options shouldn't take half an hour. And yet, if you're someone who constantly analyzes every possible outcome, even minor choices can feel overwhelming. This isn't indecisiveness. It's a sign of deep cognitive processing. Highly intelligent people tend to overthink because they see more variables than the average person. Where others make quick decisions based on instinct, an analytical mind considers everything. How the choice affects the future, potential consequences, hidden factors, and even the psychology behind the decision itself. This can make even simple things feel complicated. The mind isn't just asking, what should I choose? It's asking, why do I feel this way about the choice? What if I pick the wrong thing? How will this impact everything else? This level of thought can be both a gift and a curse. On one hand, it prevents reckless decision-making. On the other, it can lead to mental exhaustion over things that shouldn't take so much effort. But here's the catch: overthinkers are usually the ones who make the smartest long-term choices. If your brain refuses to accept a simple answer, it's because it's wired to dig deeper, to understand more, and to make decisions based on more than just surface-level reasoning.
Ready?
Ever noticed how things seem to connect in ways that others don't? Maybe you pick up on hidden details in conversations, recognize trends before they become obvious, or see relationships between ideas that most people miss. This isn't just good observation, it's a sign of advanced pattern recognition, a skill linked to high intelligence. The brain thrives on structure, and some minds are simply better at detecting patterns. Whether it's predicting people's behavior, spotting inconsistencies, or understanding how seemingly unrelated things fit together, this ability is a powerful tool. It's why some geniuses excel in areas like mathematics, music, strategy, and problem solving. They can break complex systems down into recognizable patterns. This skill also explains why highly intelligent people often think steps ahead. While others focus on what's happening now, they already see where things are going. If you constantly notice connections that others overlook, it's not a coincidence. Your brain is working in ways most people can't even comprehend.
Ready?
Ever walked into a room and felt like you've been there before, even though you know it's impossible? Or had a conversation that seemed oddly familiar, like you already lived that moment? Déjà vu is one of the strangest mental phenomena, and while scientists still debate its exact cause, some research suggests it may be more common in highly intelligent people. One possible explanation is that déjà vu is a result of the brain processing information faster than usual. Some minds take in details, analyze them, and form connections at lightning speed. When this happens, the brain might mistakenly register a new experience as something that has already occurred. Essentially, it's a glitch in memory processing. Another theory is that people with heightened pattern recognition skills are more prone to déjà vu because their minds constantly search for connections. This could explain why those with high intelligence tend to feel déjà vu more often. It's simply their brain recognizing familiar patterns. While déjà vu might feel unsettling, it's also a sign of a highly active, deeply analytical brain. If you've ever found yourself questioning reality because of an overwhelming sense of familiarity, your mind is just operating at a level where even time itself seems to overlap.
Ready?
Some people let things slide, ignore unfairness, or accept the way things are. But you can't. When something feels unjust, it stays in your mind. Whether it's a small act of dishonesty or a major moral issue, you feel a deep need to set things right. This isn't just strong personal values, it's the mark of a highly analytical mind that recognizes inconsistencies, flaws, and imbalances that others overlook. Highly intelligent people often develop a strong sense of justice because they think deeply about cause and effect. They don't just react emotionally, they see how unfair systems work, how people take advantage of others, and why things should be different. This trait can make life frustrating. Seeing people get away with wrongdoing or watching unfairness unfold can feel unbearable. But it also makes you someone who stands up for what matters. Some of the greatest change makers in history were people who refused to ignore injustice. If you feel the same way, it's not a weakness. It's proof that your mind is built to question, challenge, and push the world towards something better. It sounds like something out of a cartoon, but this isn't science fiction, it's real physics. You can actually transform ordinary peanut butter into a diamond. The trick lies in chemistry and insane pressure. Peanut butter is packed with carbon, the same element that makes up diamonds. The difference is structure. In a diamond, carbon atoms are arranged in a tight, super strong crystal lattice. In peanut butter, they're locked into messy organic compounds. But hit it with enough pressure, we're talking hundreds of thousands of times the pressure you feel at sea level, and those atoms can rearrange into something extraordinary. Scientists at a lab in Germany actually pulled this off. They placed peanut butter in a device called a diamond anvil cell, which crushes materials between two diamonds. Yes, diamonds to make diamonds. They pressed it until the carbon atoms inside realigned into tiny black diamond crystals. It's not about making jewelry the diamonds were microscopic, but it proves a wild point. Even one of the goopiest foods on Earth can be turned into one of the hardest substances known to man. Now, no, you can't do this in your kitchen. The conditions needed are similar to what you'd find deep inside the planet. Still, It's a jaw-dropping reminder of how weird and powerful the universe is, and how even peanut butter holds atomic secrets waiting to be unlocked. Ice cream is supposed to cool you down, right? Not this one. Somewhere between dessert and a dare, there's a flavor called Respiro del Diavolo Devil's Breath. It's not your usual vanilla or chocolate. This spicy ice cream is made with a dose of chili extract so powerful it's been measured at over 1 million Scoville units. That's hotter than most hot sauces. The heat doesn't creep in slowly either. One bite and your tongue feels like it's on fire. In fact, most shops that sell it make you sign a waiver first. And if that feels over the top, just know that people have tried it and walked away crying. Not from sadness, but because their taste buds were hit like a flamethrower. It's the only frozen treat that can actually hurt you legally. So next time someone says ice cream is boring, hand them a scoop of Devil's Breath. Just make sure they have milk nearby, and maybe a fire extinguisher. There's a town where food literally glows with energy, and it's not science fiction. In Ramzar, Iran, rice is grown in one of the most naturally radioactive places on Earth. The soil here is rich in radium and uranium, naturally rising to the surface through hot springs. As a result, the crops soak up radiation levels that would be considered dangerous in most countries, yet locals eat it every day. Here's the twist. These levels are high, but people who live there show no signs of harm. Some scientists even believe the constant low-level exposure may have helped their bodies adapt. While it's not something you'd want to sprinkle on your dinner plate without thinking, Ramzar rice proves how strange and unpredictable nature can be. It's a grain that's part nourishment, part nuclear curiosity, and it's completely legal to sell and eat. In a quiet Bangkok neighborhood, there's a restaurant with a pot of soup that hasn't been emptied since the 1970s. Every day, the same rich broth simmers away. It's called perpetual stew, and the idea is simple. Never let the pot go dry. Just keep adding ingredients, bones, meat, vegetables, while the flavors blend, deepen, and grow more complex over time. Chefs skim the top, adjust spices, and serve bowls straight from this bubbling legacy. The broth is thick with decades of cooking. Imagine the richness of a soup that's been evolving for over 18,000 days. Tourists visit just to taste this living recipe. Some even compare it to a culinary time machine. It's not a myth. The restaurant, called Wat in a Panic, is real, and the pot is always hot. This isn't fast food, it's forever food, and every spoonful holds a history lesson. You bite into a juicy slice of pineapple, sweet, tangy, tropical. But after a few more bites, your tongue starts to feel weird. Maybe even sore. That's not your imagination. That's science biting back. Pineapples contain a powerful enzyme called bromelain. And it's not just there for flavor. It breaks down proteins, including the ones in your mouth. So when you eat pineapple, bromelain goes to work on you. It starts digesting the soft tissue on your tongue, cheeks, and lips. That tingly, almost burning feeling, that's your mouth fighting back. Luckily, your saliva and stomach acid stop the process before it does any harm. But the experience is still wild. It's one of the only fruits in the world that actively breaks down human tissue in real time. Even weirder, bromelain is so effective at breaking down meat that it's used in marinades and even some lab experiments. It's nature's steak tenderizer hiding in a fruit bowl. So next time pineapple stings a little, remember, you're not just eating it, it's working on you too. It sounds like a weird science experiment, and it kind of is, but yes, you can actually taste garlic through your feet. The reason lies in a compound called allicin. That's the chemical responsible for garlic's strong smell and taste. When raw garlic is crushed or chopped, allicin is released. And here's the strange part, it can pass through your skin. If you rub a clove of garlic on the soles of your feet, you probably won't notice anything right away. But give it about an hour, and many people start reporting a faint garlic taste in their mouths, or even a garlic-like smell in their breath. That's because the allicin has entered your bloodstream, circulated through your body, and reached your nose and mouth from the inside. It's not dangerous, but it's definitely odd. Scientists say this proves just how absorbent human skin can be, especially on the soles where blood vessels are close to the surface. So if you ever want to prank your own senses or just freak out your friends, try the garlic foot test. It's harmless, it's hilarious, and it might just make you rethink what your body can do. It's not just a school science fair trick, lemons and potatoes can actually produce real electricity. They won't power your phone or your fridge, but they can light up a small LED. And the reason why is pure chemistry. Inside these foods are natural electrolyte substances that let electric current flow. Now, when you stick a piece of copper and a piece of zinc into a potato or a lemon, you're basically building a tiny battery. Here's how it works. The zinc releases electrons, and the acid or starch in the food helps those electrons travel toward the copper. That movement of electrons, that's electricity. Link enough lemon or potato batteries together, and you've got enough voltage to light a bulb or power a small clock. It's weirdly effective and completely safe. Engineers and educators use this trick to teach basic energy concepts, but it also raises interesting questions. Could future survival kits include food-powered tech? Maybe. For now, it's just a fascinating reminder that energy is all around us, sometimes hiding in your kitchen drawer. Believe it or not, ketchup wasn't always just a burger buddy. Back in the 1830s, it was actually sold as medicine. An Ohio physician named Dr. John Cook Bennett claimed that tomatoes could cure everything from indigestion to jaundice, and he wasn't shy about it. He even published papers on what he called the medicinal properties of tomato extract, and soon after, ketchup pills started hitting the market. That's right, people were swallowing concentrated tomato ketchup in tablet form, hoping it would fix their stomach problems. At the time, tomatoes were considered both exotic and suspicious. Bennett helped change public opinion, turning the tomato from a feared fruit into a miracle cure. Or so he claimed. It didn't take long before other companies jumped in, mass-producing ketchup as both a sauce and a supplement. Of course, science eventually caught up. Turns out ketchup doesn't cure much, unless you count a craving for fries. But this strange chapter in food history reminds us how easily beliefs around health and food can shift. One day, it's a condiment. The next, it's a cure-all. And then, back to your hot dog. It might surprise you, but mushrooms have more in common with people than they do with plants. Under the surface, fungi are genetically closer to animals, including us, than they are to trees, grass, or flowers. That's not just some quirky trivia. On the Tree of Life, scientists discovered that both humans and fungi evolved from a shared ancestor, separate from the one that led to plants. Here's the kicker. Fungi don't use sunlight for energy like plants do. They absorb nutrients from other organisms the way animals do. They even breathe oxygen and release carbon dioxide, just like us. Some mushrooms have proteins that are surprisingly similar to those found in our own bodies. On a microscopic level, their cells contain chitin, the same tough stuff found in insect shells instead of cellulose, which is what plants are made of. So next time you eat a mushroom, remember this isn't just some plant growing in the dirt. It's a member of a strange middle kingdom, not quite plant, not quite animal, but eerily close to you. More distant cousin than salad topping. At the foot of a steaming volcano in Japan, there's a food so mysterious that locals say it can add 7 years to your life. It's not magic, it's science with a twist of tradition. These are kuro tamago eggs boiled in the sulfur-rich hot springs of Owakudani near Mount Hakone. The intense heat and volcanic minerals turn the shells completely black, while the inside stays perfectly normal and edible. The dark color comes from a reaction between hydrogen sulfide in the water and the iron in the eggshell, forming iron sulfide. That reaction doesn't just make them look otherworldly, it also gives them a slight smoky aroma. Tourists line up to try one, and locals believe that eating just one can extend your life by 7 years. Eat 2? 14 years. But 3? That's considered tempting fate. Science doesn't back up the life extension claim, of course, but the eggs are real, the tradition is strong, and the experience is unforgettable. You're eating something cooked by the earth itself, in a place where steam pours from the mountains and the ground literally bubbles. It's part snack, part legend, and unlike any boiled egg you've ever seen. You probably wouldn't expect your dentist to hand you a fluffy pink cloud of sugar, but that's exactly what happened in the early 1900s. Cotton candy, also known back then as fairy floss, was co-invented by a dentist named Dr. William Morrison. Together with a candy maker, he created the first machine that could spin melted sugar into thin threads, making a treat that looked like magic and melted in your mouth. In 1904, they took their invention to the World's Fair in St. Louis, and people went crazy for it. They sold over 60,000 boxes. Back then, it was actually considered a luxury item because sugar wasn't as cheap as it is now. The irony? The man who helped create this iconic sweet also spent his days telling people to cut back on sugar and brush their teeth. Today, cotton candy is a carnival classic. It might not be healthy, but it's still one of the lightest desserts in the world by weight, at least. A whole cone of it is mostly air. But next time you see one spinning at the fair, just remember, the guy behind it probably had a dental drill in his other hand. It's saffron. This bright red thread-like spice comes from the flower of the Crocus sativus, and it's the most expensive spice in the world by weight. Just 1 pound can cost thousands of dollars. Why? Because harvesting it is incredibly labor-intensive. Each flower only produces 3 tiny stigmas, and it takes around 75,000 flowers to make a single pound. But here's the plot twist. Saffron crocus can grow in regular gardens across the US. You don't need a greenhouse or a farm, just good soil, some patience, and a few bulbs. Plant them in the fall, and if conditions are right, you'll get flowers in a few weeks. Then comes the delicate job of handpicking those fragile red threads. Most saffron today comes from Iran, Spain, or India, but a growing number of people are cultivating it at home, not just to save money, but for the thrill of harvesting something more valuable than gold from their own backyard. If you thought strawberries were the ultimate berry, get ready for a twist. Bananas are true berries, and strawberries are not. It sounds backward, but it all comes down to botanical definitions. In science, a berry isn't just a sweet, juicy fruit. It has to develop from a single flower with 1 ovary and contain seeds embedded inside a fleshy middle. By that rule, bananas qualify. So do kiwis, grapes, and even eggplants. Strawberries, on the other hand, break all the rules. They grow from a flower with multiple ovaries, and those tiny seed-like bits on the outside? They're not seeds, they're tiny fruits in their own right. The red part we eat is just the swollen base of the flower. Technically, strawberries are aggregate fruits, not berries at all. It's one of those facts that messes with your brain. Grocery store labels don't care about plant biology, but nature definitely does. So next time you peel a banana, just know, you're holding a true berry. And that bright red strawberry shortcake? Delicious, yes. But scientifically, it's living a lie. Yes, people really eat gold real, 24-karat gold. And no, it doesn't taste like anything. Edible gold is flavorless, odorless, and completely safe to consume in small amounts. It's used to decorate luxury foods. Think gold-covered burgers, donuts, chocolates, ice cream, and even sushi. Some restaurants go all in wrapping entire steaks in thin gold leaf or topping cocktails with shimmering flakes. It's more about the flex than the flavor. Gold is one of the few metals that doesn't react with your body. It doesn't get absorbed or digested, it just passes through, glittering on the way in and gone the next day. And yes, it has to be 24 karat to be edible any less, and it could contain other metals that aren't food safe. This shiny trend isn't exactly new. Royals in ancient Egypt and Europe used to sprinkle gold powder into food and drinks as a symbol of wealth and divine power. Today it's more about going viral. A $1,000 sundae covered in gold? Sounds crazy until someone orders it for the Instagram photo. Because nothing says luxury like eating something you normally lock in a safe. At first glance, it looks like a normal round of soft cheese, but look closer, it's alive. Literally. Deep in the heart of Sardinia, there's a traditional delicacy called casu marzu, which translates to rotten cheese. But it's not just aged, it's inhabited. This cheese is intentionally left out so flies can lay their eggs inside. When the larvae hatch, they start breaking down the fats in the cheese, creating a soft, spreadable texture and a strong, intense flavor that's unlike anything else on Earth. Here's where it gets wild. The cheese is traditionally eaten with the maggots still moving inside. Some locals consider it unsafe once the larvae have died. That's how fresh they want it. Casu marzu has been banned and unbanned multiple times in the EU, but Sardinians defend it as a cultural food, with deep roots in their island's history. It's even been recognized by UNESCO as part of the region's heritage. For those brave enough to try it, the experience is unforgettable. The texture is creamy, the taste is pungent, and the thought of a food that can squirm on your plate. Well, that makes it one of the most extreme cheeses in the world. It's not just a snack, it's a dare served on bread. You've probably eaten dozens, maybe hundreds of bananas in your life. But did you know every single one of them was slightly radioactive? It's true, bananas contain potassium, which your body needs. But a small portion of that potassium is an isotope called potassium-40, and that's naturally radioactive. Don't worry though, you'd have to eat thousands of bananas at once to feel any effect. And by that point, the potassium itself would be more dangerous than the radiation. In fact, scientists sometimes use something called the banana equivalent dose as a fun way to explain radiation levels. It's a way of saying this amount of radiation is equal to eating X number of bananas. For example, a cross-country flight might expose you to about the same radiation as eating 20 bananas. So yes, technically speaking, your smoothie might be glowing just a little, but it's completely harmless, and you'd get more radiation walking around a granite building than eating a fruit bowl. Still, next time you see a banana, it's fun to think you're holding a tiny yellow reactor. That tastes great with peanut butter. It's called Hawaiian. It's topped with pineapple, and it divides people like few other foods, but here's the plot twist. Hawaiian pizza wasn't created anywhere near Hawaii. It was actually invented in Canada by a Greek immigrant named Sam Panopoulos. In the early 1960s, he was running a small restaurant in Ontario and decided to try something different. He tossed canned pineapple onto a classic ham pizza just to see what would happen. At the time, mixing sweet and savory on pizza was pretty much unheard of, but Sam liked it and so did his customers. The combo of salty ham and sweet pineapple was bold, weird, and instantly memorable. He named it Hawaiian after the brand of canned pineapple he used, not the state. And just like that, one of the most loved and hated pizzas on Earth was born. Over time, Hawaiian pizza spread far beyond Canada, becoming a global debate. Some call it genius, others call it pizza blasphemy. But whether you pick it off or order extra pineapple, one thing's for sure, it didn't come from a tropical island. It came from a cold Canadian kitchen with one guy who thought, why not? You'd expect the most stolen item in the world to be something flashy, maybe electronics or fancy drinks. But no, it's cheese. Quiet, delicious, everyday cheese. According to global retail data, nearly 4% of all cheese produced worldwide is stolen. That's more than chocolate, more than meat, more than alcohol. And it's not just small-time shoplifters pocketing cheddar at the supermarket. We're talking about full-scale cheese theft rings. Why cheese? It's valuable, easy to move, and doesn't always need refrigeration, especially aged varieties like Parmesan or Manchego. In Europe, massive wheels of cheese can be worth hundreds each. There have been warehouse break-ins, truck hijackings, and even fake delivery drivers making off with entire pallets. One theft in Italy saw over $100,000 worth of Parmigiano Reggiano vanish overnight. Some stores now treat premium cheese like high-end electronics, locking it behind glass or tagging it with sensors. Strange? Maybe. But cheese isn't just tasty, it's loot. In the underground food world, it turns out the real treasure might be hiding in your deli aisle. Broccoli might seem like a basic vegetable, but it's actually a human invention crafted through generations of selective breeding. It didn't grow wild in forests or sprout naturally on some mountaintop. Broccoli was engineered by farmers in the Mediterranean. Starting thousands of years ago with a humble plant called Brassica oleracea, also known as wild cabbage. This rugged green wasn't much to look at, but it was flexible. Depending on what traits were selected, it could become something entirely different. Farmers noticed they could guide the plant's growth over time. By encouraging larger flower buds, they gradually created what we now know as broccoli. The same original plant also gave us cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, and cabbage, all siblings in the same genetic family, shaped by human hands. It's like nature's Lego set, and farmers were the original designers. Today, broccoli is one of the most recognizable vegetables on the planet, praised for its nutrients and used in everything from stir-fries to smoothies. But its origins are far from ordinary. It's proof that humans have been bioengineering their food for centuries, long before labs and computers got involved. So the next time someone tells you broccoli is boring, just remember, it's actually one of our earliest and most successful genetic experiments. A green invention hiding in plain sight. The flaky, buttery croissant is the symbol of French breakfasts, cafe tables, Parisian mornings, and 1,000 Instagram posts. But here's the twist most people don't know. Croissants didn't originate in France at all. Their true birthplace? Austria, specifically Vienna. The ancestor of the croissant is called the Kipferl, a crescent-shaped baked good that dates back to at least the 1600s. It was made to celebrate a victory over the Ottoman Empire, with the crescent shape representing the symbol on the Turkish flag. So how did it become French? In the 19th century, an Austrian artillery officer named August Zang opened a Viennese bakery in Paris. He brought the Kipferl with him and it caught on fast. French bakers reimagined it with their signature style, using laminated dough and layers of butter to give it that light, airy texture and golden flake. The French version was born, and it eventually took over the world. Today, the croissant is French by identity, but Austrian by origin. It's a layered story, literally and historically. And it's a reminder that even the most iconic foods often come from unexpected places. Cultures blend, recipes evolve, and before you know it, something once made for a battlefield celebration ends up wrapped in parchment paper next to your morning coffee. Not just a pastry, but a bite of history, disguised in buttery folds. That's about it. What fact about food surprised you? Write in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos.